Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov. Good morning, everybody. Beruchim Aba'im. Today is Sunday, the 25th day of Tammuz, corresponding Cohen and family. Le'ayui Nishmat, his beloved father, Yehiel Lucian Ben Miriam Kohen, as well as an additional dedication, Le'ayui Nishmat, his wife's grandmother, Rivka, for the Refuah Shelema of Leah Bat Sara and Miriam Bat Bashe, among the Holim of all of Am Israel. Amen. So today we begin discussing the Gemara from Masechet Berachot. The Gemara brings an interesting concept, the Birkat HaOreach protocol. We know that usually when someone is invited to eat in someone's home, in the Birkat HaMazon, based on the Gemara in Masechet Berachot, the Achamim added one paragraph in which we express our Hakarat Tov to the host for inviting us or whoever to a Seudah. And usually this may happen on Shabbat and Yom Tov. So I think that because this is not a very common topic, we'll discuss and we'll read and we'll translate what is the meaning of this particular Gemara. If you want to find the source of this, is in Masechet Berachot on page 46. So the Gemara brings down a couple of things. Number one, that when it comes to the bread, the beracha of Hamosi in someone's home, when it comes, let's say, to Shabbat, so the Gemara writes that the one who says the beracha on the bread is the Ba'al Bayit. The head of the household says the beracha of Hamosi. And the Gemara explains why. Because when you are the host, you know the availability of bread, and therefore you are going to be generous when you're going to distribute the bread to everyone sitting around the table. But if you are a guest and you don't know if they have more challah or more pita bread inside, you're going to be maybe very careful of giving a small piece. And what happens? The minimum amount of piece that a person must eat in a Seudah in order to say Birkat HaMazon needs to be a kazayt, right? An ounce. Ideally will be kapetza. This way you can say the beracha al netilat yadayim, you can say the beracha of Hamosi, and you can say Birkat HaMazon. In the case that you only ate a kazayt, you wash your hands, you don't say al netilat yadayim, you say Hamosi, and you say Birkat HaMazon. So after the Ba'al Bayit gave the bread and everybody enjoyed the Seudah, the Gemara brings down the version that is on the Gemara. Maybe a couple of words here and there were added to make it flow in a much beautiful way. And let me get a hold maybe of the new Hebrew-English Art Scroll Sephardic Siddur that has a beautiful translation on the prayers. Also the Orot has it, but this is the one that I have access to, right next to the bookshelves. And we'll go right away to the Birkat HaMazon. Let's look on Shabbat night that has the Birkat HaMazon as a beautiful songs, translation of songs. That's very nice. Very, very, very nice. And comes the Gemara in Masechet Berachot, and it says, Arahaman, the compassionate one, who yevarech et hashulchan hazeh she'achalnu alav. May he bless the table on which we have eaten. Bisader bo kol ma'adane olam, and arrange on it all the delicacies of the world. Beyeh keshulchano shel Avraham Avinu, and may it be like the table of Abraham. We know how was the table of Abraham Avinu. Remember back in Sefer Bereshit, how was the table of Abraham Avinu? First of all, the tent of Abraham had 4 openings. So whenever guests will come, will not have difficulty in finding the main entryway. And by the way, Abraham Avinu, as well as Sara Imenu, we know that they were the masters of Achnasat Orchim, of welcoming guests at home, and they didn't know how many guests they will be receiving every day. Let's say, if you invite a friend, right? Your mom asks, how many are a day? You're going to say 2 3 people. Okay, you have 2, 3 extra people, not a problem. But can you imagine, you tell your mom, I don't know, it could be 25, it could be 100. So how do you cook? It's a big discrepancy between 25 guests and 100 guests. So we know that there was a mega miracle that happened, especially to Sara Imeno, that whatever amount of food she cooked for that day, it was enough for everyone. That was one of the 3 miracles that happened to her. The other 2 were the one that the candle will remain lit from Erev Shabbat till Erev Shabbat for a whole week. Upon her passing, it was not this miracle. And then a tremendous amount of beracha and the presence of the Shekhinah. Okay? When the miracle of the Challah is included in the miracle of the food. And it says, what was the marketing of Abraham? Kol ra'eh mimeno yochal. Kol sameh mimeno ishte. If you're starving, come faddal. If you're thirsty, come in. And can you imagine, without having to pay? It was free. Be'al yahsam mimeno kol tov la'al ul'ol me'olamim. Amen. And may no good be ever lacking forever. I will say amen. Amen. ויברך את בעל הבית הזה, the compassionate one, may he bless the owner of the house, ובעל הסעודה הזאת, and the owner of the meal, who, him, ובניו, and his children, ואשתו, and his wife, בכל אשר לו, and whatever they have, בבנים שיחיו, may the children live, ובנכסים שירבו, and the assets should increase. Barech Hashem Helo Ufual Yadav Tirseh. May Hashem bless his dealings and be successful. Instead of having to travel, and sometimes traveling means separating from your family, from your wife, from your kids, and with all the nisyonot that comes along with. Be'al izdakek lefanav velo lefanenu, and may not semblance of sin or any iniquities a thought, sas besameach kol hayamim, may be joyous and glad all the days of life, be'osher with wealth, ube'ochabod and honor, me'ata be'ad olam, from now and forever. Lo yevosh ba'olam hazeh, may he feel no inner shame in this world, ve'lo yikalem le'olam haba, amen ken yehi rason. Beautiful, beautiful blessing. But this blessing, as I'm translating, already I have 5 or 6 questions. But I'm not going to share them all, but I'm going to bring just a few. First of all, why do we put the wife at the end of the praises? You put the husband, the children, and the wife at the end. Why suddenly I'm talking about not to commit transgressions or thoughts of averot? I'm only saying thank you for you inviting me to your home. So we're going to answer those 2 questions soon. But there is one more thing that is important to say. And I saw this written in the beautiful Safra, which I don't have it here, but I do have it, called Birkat Hamazon B'Kavana. To say Birkat Hamazon with the proper thoughts. And one of the things that it says is that a person needs to be very, very careful when it comes to this beracha of the oreach. Many times people recite the Birkat Hamazon quietly, without listening to their own blessing. And then suddenly, when it comes to the Rahaman of the guest, we say it out loud. That seems to be a problem. Why? Because we seem to give more honor to the host than to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what's written there. Very neither, if I remember tomorrow, I'll bring you the source. So there it seems to understand or to teach us that the Birkat Hamazon should be said, I don't want to say to scream, but loud enough that when it comes to say the Birkat HaOreach, I am on the same tune or in the same note. Huh? It is true, but the moment that I'm saying this Haman out loud, I'm implying that I'm doing something better for a human. I know you're saying it for the Balabai to listen, but according to what it says there, it seems to be a problem. That God says, I don't understand. You honoring him more than me? In the Birkat Hamazon, if you look in the Lech of the Birkat Hamazon, you're supposed to be able to say it from the book, Besimcha, and you're supposed to listen to the Birkat Hamazon. But if you say it quietly, God says what? I'm chopped liver. That's what the Birkat Hamazon Bekavana says. I will not say it unless it says there. It says a person needs to be careful. Once I learn this, I try to be more makpid in this. Because I used to do like everybody else. I want to honor the Baal Bayit. According to today's class, that seems to be a strike. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol nihiyah b'baruch.
Amen.
So concerning the question of shame and embarrassment, at the end it says, Lo yevosh ba'olam hazeh, may you feel no inner shame in this world, ve'lo yikalem le'olam haba, and not to be humiliated in the world to come. What has to do shame and humiliation in the physical world and the world to come? For me, this sentence doesn't fit here. I'm thankful for the meal. Everything was delicious. Hazaku Baruch. May God bless you. Comes here the Mefarshim on the Gemara, and it says, Shelo yavo lidei busha mehamat. In the physical time of his life, and then being embarrassed after 120, when the person will be asked, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And imagine yourself, there is a certain level of shame. So interesting enough now that the Beracha of the Oreach is not only at this moment that I'm enjoying your meal, eat the meal with you in your home. I'm blessing you that you should never become poor, and I'm also giving you Hitzuk that you should not do Averot. And this way you don't feel shame or embarrassment. Now, the other question, why at the end it says, Velo izdakek lo lefanav velo lefanenu, shum devar hirhur, het ba'avira ve'avon. Here the Gemara brings an added sentence which is not found in any situr. And you know what the sentence is? Al ishlot satan lo b'ma'aseh yadav velo b'ma'aseh yadeno. May the Yetzer Hara doesn't get involved in his deeds or in our deeds. In the Nusach of the Birkat Hamazon, this sentence is omitted. It's not mentioned. Why is not mentioned? Ich weiß nicht. As they say, Mami Arif. I don't know, but maybe not to imply the word Satan, which is not a good word to say or to get close to, but basically, perhaps, and I saw once the following pirush, that many times the person, when he's invited to someone's home, could be issues. Could be issues when someone is invited to someone's home. That's why the Gemara writes, not every guest you should bring to your home. Lo hakol tavi habaita. I'm not sure if it's a pasuk, but the Gemara for sure says it. When the Gemara talks about the nashim, right, the ladies, they can pinpoint the goodness of the guest. And what proof the Gemara brings down? I believe Elisha, right? Elisha, the Isha Shunamit, and she says, Ki ish sadiq hu. She says, I recognize that this fellow that comes to us, which wasn't a fellow, was Elisha Navi. He's a holy man. So it says, Hu sadiq velo shamasho sadiq. He is a sadiq, but Gehazi, right? Gehazi was the shamosh of, right, Ish Kadosh. The Elisha was Kadosh, but Gehazi, his shamosh, was not kadosh. Now, how can she know who was holy and who was not holy? I'll give you the short answer. In the way we understand that Isha Shunamit was a very beautiful lady, and she, as a good host, she will do the bed of the guest, and she will check the bedding in the morning, and she will see that the bed of Elisha remained clean and tahor, but the bed of Gehazi had zera, has zera levatala, has v'shalom. I don't have to explain that. Everybody's a mature audience, so you understand what it means. Nightly bodily emissions that brings tum'ah to the person. And that's what happened. She says, what was Gehazi? Gehazi perhaps will look at her, and then at night he will have these accidents. And perhaps this is part of the message. Alis daket lefanav velo lefanenu shum devarher het birhura abon. Maybe the guest looks too much at the wife of the host, or maybe suddenly starts looking at the house. Psh, what a furniture! Psh, what a waterfront view! Psh, silverware, wine, dishes, delicacies, hadames, and all that. What does it bring? Ain hara. And concerning the first question that we asked, why does the beracha of the oreah places the wife at the end? Short answer, Aharon, Aharon, Havil. Because even though the husband invited you to eat in the home, but who is the one who needs to bring the green light to bring guests? The wife, not the husband. The husband cannot say to the wife, "Hi, sweetheart, I invited Reuben, Shimon, and Levi to come for the second night of Rosh Hashanah." You think that's a nice statement? No. The husband needs to ask the wife, "What do you think if we invite?" You know, the Gemara also mentions that there are two types of guests. A guest that is makir tov, and a guest that is kafui tova. Makir tov, that is grateful. He says, "Wow, look at this fellow. He has a lot of guests, a lot of children, and yet he invited me. What a gesture, what a nice act of hesed." The ingrate says, "What's the big deal? He's already cooking for 10 people. One more schnitzel? Or one more piece of a brisket? What's a big deal?" That's the difference. That's why when you are a guest, if you happen to be a guest, rule number one, be thankful. Don't ask for things which are not on the table. That's a recipe for disaster. I'm telling you this from professional and personal experience. I witnessed this. One time, I was a guest in someone's house, and a guest asked, no water, because according to the halakha, the only thing a guest can ask is water. Nothing else. There is no tahina for the kibben abelsia, madhaf. There is no chrein for the gefilte fish. I know you like it.
That's right.
Right? Right? Or harif, you want soup for the Moroccan fish, it's not on the table, don't ask for it. Water, you can ask. Maybe you're thirsty, maybe you're dehydrated, and everybody has running water at home. But can you imagine if suddenly you ask for soup, or you for the tahina, and the wife said, "Oh, I forgot to get it." And then the husband says, "How can you forget to bring it? You do given a belsia without tahina? You do gefilte fish without chrein? You do cholent without kishke? You know, where are you?" I've seen this ma'aseh in front of my eyes. What was the request? I think mayonnaise. Mayonnaise, a normal item that most people have at home. Guess what? She ran out of mayonnaise. She did potato salad, she did this salad, and no more mayonnaise. And the guest asked, "Do you have some mayonnaise?" And the wife says, "We ran out of it." So the husband says to her, I was the witness. Why do you wait till you run out of it instead of having a backup jar at home? So I ask you a question. What do you think it happened afterwards?
Shalom Bayit.
Big time. Big time. Is like the famous story with one of the Gedolim. I'm not sure if it's attributed to the Hafetz Chaim or to the Hazon Ish, one of the great Hachamim of the previous generation. The Hacham saw this and he tells the Baal Bayit, Mehila, can you pass me the salt? The soup doesn't have enough. I like it saltier. And what did the rabbi do? He drank the soup. Once again, a gadol of the generation drinks the soup. You are as a Baal Bayit, what are you going to do? You drink the soup. And the rest of the meal went beautiful. The next morning, the Baal Bayit says to the Hacham, Hacham, no one is around us now. Tell me the truth. Wasn't the soup salty? Yes, it was. So why did you ask me to bring you more salt? You could have not eaten like I wanted to do. The Hacham says, I could have done that. But listen to the following scenario. You push away the bowl of soup. Now the rabbi says, I would have pushed away the bowl of soup. Two people are not touching the soup. You're going to tell your wife who did the soup. It's unedible. Now, I didn't do it. The widow, the cook, did it. And then your wife would have gone to the cook and says, you embarrass me. I bring the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, the great Hacham, whichever Hacham it was, and I'm not able to serve them soup. You're fired. This is what this Hacham said. No, back then in Europe, it was very common in the Jewish communities to provide a source of income to the widows. And many of them took upon themselves to be cooks in the affluent homes of the Jewish people. And this way they will have food, they will have a nice income, and they will take care of the family. It was a very common practice. So the great Hacham says, your wife probably will have fired her because she was embarrassed that I was in your home for Shabbat and I couldn't eat the soup. And then I have a widow without a job, then I have orphans without income. I said to myself, I'd rather eat the soup with salt, and at least I'm preserving the shalom bayit between husband and wife and the treatment to a widow. So as a rule of life, when you're a guest in someone's home, whatever they serve you, thank you very much. Always compliment, always be thankful. Don't come empty-handed unless it's an unexpected invitation. It's also part of Hakarat Hatov. To be a mensch, to have derecheres, never killed anyone. The opposite. You know, they prepare for you, they thought of you to invite you. The least you can do is something. You can bring a bottle of wine. You don't have to break the bank to do that. You can bring a dessert. You can bring some flowers, something as a Hakarat Hatov. And if something is not on the table, don't ask for it. To avoid drama and other matters that may develop in the event that the answer is, I'm sorry, we don't have any more mayonnaise. I remember that story. I was an eyewitness there. I was not a participant because I said to my friend on the spot, what are you asking? No, I like it with mayonnaise. I'm sure they have mayonnaise. Guess what? They didn't have mayonnaise. She ran out of it. Next. Okay. Let's go for a few minutes. Interesting messages from Sefer Hasidim. Chapter 139, chapter 141. Now is talking about embarrassing someone. We all know that embarrassing someone is not allowed. That's it. You're not allowed to embarrass anyone. But what happens if a teacher is teaching to the student something but in the wrong way? Are you allowed to correct him? Are you supposed to correct him? You're supposed to teach him the wrong way, and then you go privately? What do you do in a case like this? You're walking outside in the midrash, and you listen how someone is teaching a child reading the Shema, and instead of teaching him be'ahavta, teaches be'ahavta. For example, on the pronunciation, let's say, do you tell them, no, you're teaching him wrong, or you wait? So comes Safra Hasidim, and it says as follows. If you heard that a person is teaching the student in the wrong way, and the wrong way, let's clarify, doesn't necessarily means in the reading. The reading will be less of a problem than if the teaching is about a halacha, which is much more severe. Nevertheless, לא תאמר לרב בפני התלמיד, טעות אתה אומר. You're not allowed to say to the teacher in front of the student, you are wrong. This is the similar lesson that we learned several months ago, that we discussed how careful parents must be in their home not to talk in a negative way against the rabbi or against the teacher of the school, of the Talmud Torah, of the yeshiva, or the high school. Why? Because if a parent talks in a negative way against a rabbi or against a teacher, what message is he or she, if it's the mother, sending to the child? The rabbi is wrong, the teacher is wrong. In my days, the teacher was never wrong. Today is different. Today people change. But in my days, and I'm sure many of you remember, if the teacher wrote a note and it says, please, Mr. Galimidi, we need to talk about your son Yosef, I knew what that meant. That didn't mean, oh, Yosef is doing so good. No, it meant
Reprimand.
Hazako Baruch. So you got it from the teacher, and when the father came home, we got it again from the father. The teacher was always right. You went to the same school? What about you, Professor? You went to the same school? Okay, you're a different school. Okay, you're a different generation. What about you? You went to a different school. I don't think so. Your father.
טעות אתה אומר, אלא תודיעהו לאחד מקרוביו או לאוהבו. Send the message afterwards to a third party. Someone that knows it, that will take it in a good way. ואל תשפוך את דמו. And don't kill him publicly. The way the Gemara writes in Baba Messiah. Embarrass him. You embarrass the teacher. Okay? Now, Velo Yomar, one more interesting message to Sefer Hasidim. Sometimes parents talk, not now about schooling, but about shidduchim. Imagine yourself, you're walking on the street, and you tell your friend, you know who called me the other day for my daughter? Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Richmond. You like it?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond. I don't want to say any name so nobody feels targeted at the public forum. Okay? Mr. Richmond called me for my daughter. He called me for my daughter. Aha. Right? Hashuv. It says, maybe Hashuv, and especially, but you said, I said no. His son is not good enough for my daughter. That's heavy. Never such a statement should come out from any mouth. And it goes further. It says, first of all, you are inflating your ego. Number one, you're embarrassing your friend. You're hurting your friend. Because he also has a daughter, and she's not going out on shidduchim. And you are bragging, that's what it means. You're bragging that someone called for your daughter, and you had the courage to say no. That's also a problem. Because now you are talking in an arrogant fashion. And he is in charge. I said no to him. You follow? I think it's very clear. I think the message is very clear. One more. Self-control. Self-control, it's part of Avodat Hashem. It's part of who we are. I'm sure that some of us, perhaps today, wanted to stay in bed, right? And sleep longer. It's Sunday. We had a busy Shabbat. For me, Shabbat, I work double and triple time, And yet the person says, hold on a minute. I'm going to wake up late. I'm going to miss tefillah. I'm going to miss Shema. The whole day is going to be gone just with sleeping. You know what? I'm going to wake up. And guess what? Some people have this struggle every day. Some people, they have an easy time waking up early. But some people have a difficult time waking up early. So this is one type of self-control. The next one is a bit more challenging because it talks about a topic that we discuss several times throughout the classes, and is the topic of Shemirat Ha'inayim. Watching, be careful with what we watch. And I'm not even talking about movies or TV. I'm talking about Pashut, the street. You walk on the street, and then suddenly the Yetzer is coming your way. Correct? So what do you do in that case? Umashbil Ainav. Suddenly the person lowers their eyes. Beruho. Doesn't even think about it. Of looking. And stays with the eyes down. That's one example. Other one. Eno medaber devarim betelim. Doesn't take nonsense. Because, as we discussed often in the past, the more we talk, the more we see. And I'm not talking about talking Torah, talking Tefillah, talking Tehillim. No. We're talking about talking Devarim Betelim. Nonsense. And one conversation may lead to the other. And then the person utilizes self-control or restraint. Or a challenging one. Sobel b'sha'at ka'aso. Anger. Anger wants to explode inside of you. And what do? Instead of reacting and allowing the emotions to jump out of your body, you control yourself, which is not easy at all. You control yourself and you stay quiet and you don't answer back to whoever is saying something to you. It's not automatic. It doesn't happen automatic. You say, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? And don't ask to be tested. Tested means nisayon. Don't ask, You may say, what's the big deal, Rabbi? Somebody says something bad to me, somebody curses me, I stay quiet and ignore. You let me know when that happens and your reaction. Because sometimes the anger, has v'shalom, is stronger than the person. And the person doesn't know how to control that explosion or that impulse. That's why being impulsive is not good. Sometimes to be impulsive, to do good, to do the right thing, has a kubaruch. But being impulsive as a way of life is not all the time good. Goes further and it says, "Ve'osek b'torah u'b'ma'asim tovim." And instead of the person allowing their wants and desires to be on the driver's seat of the person's life, the person activates self-control and the person dictates the reaction. And the person has a way of life, learns Torah, and does ma'asim tovim. Listen to the benefit. לעתיד לבוא יהיה לפנים יותר ממלאכי השרת. He will have VIP sitting above the malachim. How could it be? Usually for us, the malachim are supernal, above nature creation. Now he's telling me, guess what? You can become greater than an angel. And the truth is that humans have the potential of becoming greater than malachim. And the reason is very simple. A malach and a human have different missions and purposes in life. An angel, a malach, is created to serve God. But the service to Hashem is more on fulfilling a mission. I have a mission for you, Malach Rafael. Go and heal someone. Malach Michael, go and save someone. Malach Gabriel, go and discipline someone. Malachim don't have commandments. Malachim don't have human form. Malachim don't have desires. Malachim don't need to eat. Malachim don't get married, and Malachim don't have children. They have nothing. This was the famous debate. If you remember the famous Gemara that discusses when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to receive the Torah, and the Malachim asked Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you doing among us? You are human. You are limited. You have a limited lifespan. You are limited in your capabilities. You're going to come to us and take the Torah? And Moshe Rabbeinu was frightened by this. And what Hashem says to the Malachim, to Moshe, grab my throne and answer them. And Moshe Rabbeinu begins the debate. And he goes and it says, I don't understand. One of the 10 commandments says, honor your parents. Were you conceived by parents? No. Another commandment says, I'm your God who took you out of Egypt from the slavery. Were you ever slave? Honor the Shabbat. Why? You work during the week that you have to rest on the Shabbat? Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery. All these commandments of the 10 commandments, at the end of the debate, the score was Moshe 10, Malachim 0. That was the end of the game. Sounds like a soccer game. I can't say basketball because the numbers are much higher. But in baseball or soccer, those numbers are very similar. So it says, one more. This comes from the Aventura, from Perashat Be'alotecha. The Aventura of Shabbat Hanukkah number 1. Roni besimchi bat Zion. They are from the Navi Zechariah. The Pasuk writes, without going to the historical background of the menorah with Yoshua Kohen Gadol,
I'll tell you one Pasuk. That's it. A human grows, not only in the physical way that we are conceived and born as babies, and gradually we develop into mature humans, but also spiritually, we are able to grow through mitzvot, through ma'asim tovim, through Torah. So the person that was born is not the same person that is living the world 120 years later. And that's why it says that a person that is able to bend their desires in order to do the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Borei Olam says, you qualify for a promotion. I have for you premium economy seat without having to pay the extra fee. You bought an economy ticket, but I'm giving you premium economy or business class, whatever seats in Shamayim they have. By the way, in Shamayim they have all these seating arrangements. Just multiply them times millions. Okay, we use words so we can identify what does it mean get a promotion. That's exactly what Sefer Hasidim says. Borei Olam says, you took care of me, I want to keep you close to me. Unbelievable, powerful message. And it says, he quotes an interesting Yerushalmi that says that many times, Malachim rechokim min HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says often the deeds of the person are so great that they leave the Malachim behind. How much behind? Rechokim, far away. Again, if a Malach has no mitzvot, how does he qualify for a promotion? It's like you want a raise, right? You want a raise in your salary. Before you get a raise, you have to get a salary. You can't get a raise from not getting a salary. Same thing with the Malachim. Why they should be promoted? If they are omedim, if they are stationary. Very interesting message from the great Sefer Hasidim. Now he brings one more. He discusses the topic of bookbinding. Bookbinding. You see the books? This is called bookbinding. You see the paper. Some of the books have a string. They have reinforcements. They have something very elegant, so it keeps all the pages together. Needless to say, there is some stitching involved, and every book has a different pattern. This is colorful with printing. They put glue. Sometimes you see that in the yeshivot, they put the black duct tape and they drill it, right, with a heavy-duty thread in order to preserve the books. So far, so good. But it says you need to be careful with the following problem. It seems that back in the day, due to the lack of paper, they will use newspapers or magazines as part of the bookbinding process. And he says that is a problem because you are bringing matters that don't have Kedusha into Kedusha. By the way, the Nazis in Mahsheman, they used to utilize pieces of the Sefer Torah for bookbinding. And it was found many times that books were broken, and now suddenly this is the part of the book that usually pays the price. Again, you open, you close, you open, you close, you open, you close. I do my own bookbinding, by the way. Unless I need ICU treatment in the book, I give it to Ricardo or to Marvin. They are the experts, in-house bookbinders, different styles. Different methods, both of them free. They do it out of love and as a hobby, and they take upon themselves to revise the bookshelves and to give Hatzalah treatment to many books. Okay? So it was discovered post the Holocaust that when many books open up here, and you open the book, books of science, of math, of literature, that they had parchments of Sefer Torah, that they utilized them to bind them together. Because if you look at the book, this is a different type of book, okay? Different style of book binding all together. Here they did something extra. They added a piece of fabric on the seam of the book. These ones don't have fabric, they have paper and glue. That's the glue what you see. Here also. In this one, they added a piece of fabric. All this is kosher. No issue whatsoever. The problem is, Sefer Hasidim, אל יחסה את ספרו שכתובים בלשון לעז או יווני. Here he brings even more. It says paper that contain Greek fonts or foreign languages. And the reason is because a book has kedusha. So if the binding, for example, many times, you'll see that in many Sidurim, it says, Neyar al nitfas al neyar she'en bo hilul Shabbat. Many times you see in the books, these ones don't have it. Maybe this one has it. Let me find it. Okay, it doesn't have it. But in the olden days, this used to be a problem. It used to be a certain printing company that used to work on Shabbat. And they used to print Sidurim, Humashim. And you know how they discovered this? Through someone that went to his rabbi, and it says, Rabbi, I have this Sidur, but I'm not able to have Kavanah. Can you help me? It says, get another Sidur. He gets another Sidur, and Kavanah is easier. But it says, but I like the print of that Sidur. Okay, go back to your Sidur, the old Sidur. He prays again, no Kavanah. Back and forth, back and forth. This rabbi asked a Gadol from Israel, and it says, Hacham, give me an advice to give to my student to be able to pray with Kavanah. You know what the great rabbi answered him? Number one, what Sidur he uses to pray. He told him the name of the Sidur. The rabbi says, no wonder. They work on Shabbat. Doesn't mean that the Sidur was printed on Shabbat. But if the printing press in that company works on Shabbat and they use the same paper, if it's for Shabbat or for Sunday or Monday, the tefillah is going to become affected. I'm not going to tell you the name of the publishing company. They did teshuvah, Baruch Hashem. But that's the reason why you see many times that many Sidurim says printed on paper that was not done Hilul Shabbat on it. Unbelievable. So now we learn it. Even if it has wrapping, it says Uma'aseh Be'ehad, someone who bind the books of Torah with leather cover, but the inner paper, it was a novel from Goyim, and different matters, and it was removed from the bookshelf. That book was not allowed to be used. Remove the paper, then we go back. Now you may say, Rabbi, come on, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Well, I cannot use a newspaper to line the book. It seems that when it comes to Kedusha, when it comes to holiness, there is no room for external influences on Kedusha. It's like a person wants to say a beracha on food that is dirty. Can you say a beracha on that? No. What are you supposed to do? You clean it first, and then you say the beracha. Same thing in here. Are you going to make kiddush on a kiddush cup that is dirty inside? What kind of dirt I'm talking about? None. Somebody put their fingers. Here, take the kiddush cup, make kiddush. What are you supposed to do when it comes to the kiddush cup? You're supposed to rinse it. Hazako Baruch. What's the big deal? It's a big deal. When it comes to Kedusha, we cannot afford to have any bacteria whatsoever. The opposite of Kedusha is a bacteria that affects the Kedusha. And this is not only about the books. I think that the books is a very easy example to understand. But like any day, any way of life, you cannot say it's 98% kosher. Is it kosher or not kosher? It's not 98. You know, sometimes American companies, they pull in barrels of sanitizer, kills 99.999. You spend more ink in putting 99 plus 9999 than put 100%. But no one will dare put 100%. Because if God forbid something happens, there is a huge liability. Okay? In Judaism, there is no such a thing. Either you're 99, either you're 100% pregnant, or you're not pregnant. Is it 98% kosher, 2% taref? Unacceptable. Either it's kasher or not kasher. Is it permissible? Is it not? And that's a very interesting way in life in Avodat Hashem. I wish everybody to have a beautiful day. Shabbat Baruch. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל.